Okay. Hey there, this is Andrew. Let's talk about some Unchained. So I'm going to show you a deck. This is actually the first Unchained deck that I opened. It is not the first Unchained deck that I played, and I'll explain why at the end after I show you the deck. I'm pretty excited about it. I like it. It's not great. It's not like Z's, go 23 and 3 or whatever Unchained deck. That one seems amazing. But it's good. It's solid and it's fun. So I'm going to show you that. And Unchained decks are not necessarily going to be good. Don't expect them to be good. Some of them will be super bad, like easily reversal quality. Randomness is spiky, and I think that's one thing I want to point out about this deck. Is it possible that there's something weird going on? Always, definitely. It's not, the way that these decks are generated is not pure random. It is pseudo-random. There are rules and etc. But in general, randomness is spiky. That's why you get, anyway, randomness is spiky. So it's not shocking that you get, say, a display that has all Brobnar decks, for example. Some things stretch credulity, but anyway, randomness is spiky. So that's what we're going to see here. And like I said, this is my first Unchained deck, and I was pretty stoked about what's in it. You'll see. So not all and I'll also talk about the Unchained cards, the lists at the end too. The lists, my story about the deck, you'll get it all. Okay. So, not all Unchained decks have a token creature, but I expect the rule is if they have a card that generates tokens, then they get a token creature. So this one's Grunt. Grunt is actually surprisingly good. 3 power Martian Soldier seems kind of bland, but when you compare it, or when you pair it with certain Martian cards, it's actually quite good. So seems fun. So that's Grunt. Phosphorus Stars. Yeah, play stun each non-Mars creature, gain 2 chains. I don't think this is great, but maybe it's better against Winds of Exchange, because they're going to have some nasty big boards, and that could be very effective, assuming they don't have a Mars token creature. Chuff Ape is an 11 power beast. Now, of course, the thing about Unchained is rarity is much more elastic. So, like Phosphorus Stars is a common, Chuff Ape is a rare, no biggie. They're both from Coda, so they're marked as such on the bottom. Oh, that is not showing up well, but on the bottom of the card here shows the Coda icon. Biomatrix backup. Oh, so Chuff Ape, by the way, not bad. 11 power taunt, enters play stunned. That's actually great. After fight and after reap, you may destroy another friendly creature. If you do, fully heal Chuff Ape. Okay. Probably not going to go to that many turns, but it's fine. Biomatrix backup. Upgrade with an amber. Gives a creature destroyed. Put this creature into its owner's archives. That's fun. I love Brainstem Antenna. Brainstem Antenna is an upgrade that says this creature gains for the after you play a Mars creature. Ready this creature, and for the remainder of the turn, it belongs to House Mars. All right, we got a Maverick Nexus in Mars. Maverick's much more likely to happen in Unchained. Rules are super relaxed. So we get this. Brainstem Antenna, by the way, also a rare. So we got this Maverick, 3 power Cyborg Thief, elusive. After reap, use an enemy artifact as if it were yours. Very nice. Sky Booster Squadron, 4 power Martian Soldier. After reap, return Sky Booster Squadron to your hand. That's from AOA. All right, we got a Maverick the Archivist. So here I'll pause and I'll tell you my story. So I went to sleeve this because I thought it's Unchained. This is so cool. I want to sleeve it. The poor archivist. I get to the end of sleeving and I realize I have too many sleeves left over at the end. I better count this deck. Missing cards. Okay, I better look into that a little more. Yeah, missing this guy. This is a terrible card in this deck. It's not good. The Archivist is not good in this deck, but it was missing. That makes it not a legal deck ever. So I went to the booth. I said, hey, I'm missing a card. They said, yeah, a couple other people had that problem too. I'm sure, they're working out bugs. They're going to fix that in their full production run. But missing a card, okay, that's not great. Cool. Let's go ahead and they just gave me a new deck. Took this one back. I said, and you'll see later, but I said, I'm pretty excited about that deck. Is there any way I can keep it? They said, well, if somebody turns in the card, you can have it back. And somebody did. Yeah, somebody found the card and returned it to HQ, and they posted about it in Discord. So somebody tagged me in that conversation, let me know, and I went back and I picked up the deck and had this deck that I'm really excited about. So anyway, so the Archivist will always be, this Mars Archivist will always be a special card for that reason. I wish I would have gotten this in a Mars like Archive Your Opponent's Creatures deck, and this deck just doesn't have that. So it ends up not being good. But I could imagine having the Archivist with a lot of Mars Archive Your Opponent stuff like Scoop Up and Zookeeper, things like that. It would be super good. But anyway, it's fine. Okay. Tremble, also pretty bad here. It's a 3-power mutant that says each mutant creature gains skirmish. Mars, of course, has like no mutants whatsoever. There's not mutants in these other houses. Unfathomable also doesn't have a lot of. I don't think they have any mutants. Shadows has some mutants, but I don't think we get any. So this ends up giving itself and any enemy mutant skirmish, which is a little sad, but it's funny. Okay. Then we have Nyan Outpost. This is pretty cool. I mentioned in a previous video one of these outposts. So this is an artifact. It's a location, and all the artifacts have an effect like action, put a friendly creature on the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, comma. And then what's different is what happens after the if you do. In this case, it's make 2 token creatures. That's pretty nice. And even though, my token creatures are these grunts, it felt good. Nizek Resonator, 2-power Martian Soldier with 1 armor. And this actually has the Winds of Exchange icon. I think that I haven't seen this in Winds of Exchange, but clearly it is back. And yeah, so there it is. My impression is that cards that are in Winds of Exchange get that as their icon. And cards that are from older sets, it seems a little hard to predict what they're going to get on them. If they're from multiple sets. If they're from one set, they'll get that icon. But if they're from multiple sets, it seems a little random. And so a couple theories I've heard. One is it randomly picks. Someone suggested it picks the most recent, but it clearly can't be that. I originally would have thought it would have picked the first set where that card showed up, but it clearly can't be that. So I kind of suspect it's either random or that on a per card basis they entered it in and they meant to put the first, and in some cases they messed up, or maybe they just randomized it then. Anyway, I don't know. But Nizek Resonator is in Winds of Exchange. That's pretty cool. So it's 2-power Martian Soldier with 1 armor. And it says for each neighbor it has, your opponent's keys cost +2. That is a good card. Then we have Ether Spider, 7 power beast. It deals no damage when fighting, and each amber that would be added to your opponent's pool is captured by Ether Spider instead. That's very good. Obviously, they're going to try to kill it. It doesn't do damage back, so they have a good chance at making progress there. But in the meantime, it is slowing them down, making them deal with it. All right, last Mars card here, Destructive Analysis. I think this is an AoE card, but it's back in Winds of Exchange. That's cool. So this is an action with an amber, and it says play, deal 2 damage to a creature. You may purge any number of cards from your archives, deal an additional 2 damage to the same creature for each card purged this way. So it keeps the damage on one creature, but you can do a lot of damage. One interesting thing here, all the Mars cards that purge opponent's cards say that when that card would leave your archives, it goes to your opponent's hand instead, instead of wherever it would go. And so if you try to purge an opponent's card, it actually goes to their hand instead of getting purged. And so then when you're saying for each card purged this way, it doesn't count because it was not purged. It went to your opponent's hand. So while it would be super cool if you could purge your opponent's cards from your archives with Destructive Analysis, in fact, you cannot. Okay. Gongoozle is an action with an amber. This is Mavericked in from Dis into Shadows. And it says play, deal 3 damage to a creature. If it is not destroyed, its owner discards a random card from their hand. That's pretty nice and actually pretty thematic in Shadows. Like, this could be a Shadows card except for the art. Mace's Asp is a 3 power. It fits so well with, like, it has a, if it's not destroyed, like, look over there. It has discard, like Subtle Maul and Subtle Auto and so many other, Subtle Chain. And it has deal 3 damage, like, again, a lot of Shadows cards. So really could be a Shadows card, but it's not. It's from Dis. Okay, Mace's Asp, 3 power beast with Skirmish and Poison. Then we have 2 copies of Nexus, and this is another example where, or this is an example where I'll point out randomness is spiky. We got 3 Nexuses. One of them is in Mars. That's so weird and kind of cool. I encountered another deck this weekend that I won't say exactly what it is right now because maybe I'll mention it in the future. But it had 3 copies of a rare, and one of them was a Maverick, and that was super cool to see. So we got 2 Nexuses, 2 more in Shadows, where they belong. Then we have Ring of Invisibility. It's an upgrade with an amber, and it says this creature gains Elusive and Skirmish. Interesting. Not good with any of the creatures we've seen so far, but it's fun. And we have 2 copies of that. This second one has a capture icon. Then we have Bone Rot Venom. It's an upgrade with an amber. After this creature is used, deal 2 damage to it. We have Hit and Run. It's an action that says play, deal 2 damage to a creature, return a friendly creature to your hand. The only creatures we have in Shadows are like Nexus. I don't think we actually want to return a lot of these things to our hand, but maybe a token you could return to your hand. That's actually pretty interesting. Like if Into the Night is a token, you play Hit and Run, hit an opponent's creature, or even this, then return this to your hand, and then you can play Hit and Run. That's kind of cool. So anyway, play Into the Night. So Into the Night is an action. It says play until the start of your next turn. Non-Shadows creatures cannot fight. Very interesting. I think it could use an Amber Pip. I don't think it's actually that strong, but it is interesting. Then we have Opportunist. It's an upgrade with an Amber, and it gives a creature Elusive. And when you play it, this creature captures 1 from its opponent. And we have 2 copies of that. The second one has a capture. It's kind of interesting here, just again, on that concept of randomness is spiky. We have 2 of upgrades in Shadows. Actually, a lot of upgrades in Shadows. I think 5 total, which is a little weird. That's not normal for Shadows to have 5 upgrades. So, yeah, because we have the Bone Rot Venom as well. Oh, no, and a Mole, so I think that's 6. Oh, that's coming. Sorry. Aha. Anyway, 6 upgrades. That's kind of weird. And two of upgrades, each of which have one normal and one with a capture enhancement. We have 2 Nexuses and Shadows, but also one in Mars. And there's something else coming up that it's kind of bonkers. So, yeah. Anyway, I don't think anything weird was going on, except this is what randomness does. It spikes. It clumps together, and very strange. So anyway, that's opportunist. Then we have Mole, which is an upgrade with an amber that says this creature gains. Your opponent may spend amber on this creature as if it were in your pool. Great Saurian hate, especially. Sometimes good hate for Sanctum as well. Okay. So, remember randomness is spiky? We have drawn down here. If you know what that means, it means we're also going to get a couple more cards. We're going to get Dark Discovery and Delve Deep. So, and they're a 3-card combo. It's ideal if you can play all 3 out of your hand together, because the goal is with Drawn Down and Delve Deep, each of those lets you put a card on the bottom of your opponent's deck, and then with Dark Discovery, you name 2 cards, discard the bottom 2 cards of your opponent's deck, and if you name them correctly, you forge a key at no cost and purge Dark Discovery. So, if we land this, we do it, and the opponent doesn't do anything about it, doesn't shuffle their deck or something, then we will end up, setting ourselves up for that key cheat later. So, but here's the crazy part: we've got 2 drawn down. We've got 2 dive deeps. It's dive deep, not delve deep. We got 2 dive deeps. So drawn down says play. It's an action that says play. Look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Discard 1. Put 1 on the bottom of their deck, and put 1 on top of their deck. So discard 1. Put 1 on bottom, put 1 on top. By the way, I got totally burned by this in my alliance bracket at Keyforge Celebration. I played Justin from Tabletop Royale, and I got an unlucky early Martian Generosity for 4 cards, and he almost immediately played a Forgive or Forget and purged it, and then he used Drawn Down to knock the other Martian Generosity from my deck off the top into my discard, and then the turn after that purged it. So he got super value out of this card. Then we have Dive Deep, and what Dive Deep does is you discard the top card of your opponent's deck. You put a creature that shares a house with that card on the bottom of this owner's deck. So if you do these on the same turn, you can actually decide what card is on the top of your opponent's deck, so you can hopefully have it match a creature that you're excited about getting off the board, and you put that creature on the bottom of their deck. So if you do these in order, Drawn Down let you put a card on the bottom, a card on the top, and discard. Dive Deep has you discard and then put a card on the bottom. So now you've put 2 cards on the bottom, and you go into Dark Discovery. So this is an action with an amber that says play, name 2 cards, discard the bottom 2 cards of your opponent's deck. If they are the named cards, you purge Dark Discovery and forge a key at no cost. That's great. And yeah, there are 2 of those too. So that is pretty crazy. This is a rare combo where you get Drawn Down at rare, and you automatically include these other 2 cards, Dive Deep and Dark Discovery. And there are, on decks of Keyforge, it shows there are like 33 decks in the world, in Dark Tidings, I guess, that have this combo. So there will be more, but it's way more likely that weird things like this will happen in Unchained. So I'm thankful that I got one of these, and I'm excited to play it and try to get value out of it. It turns out there's probably not enough support in the other houses to make it really, really great, but it's still a fun and interesting concept, so I love that. Okay, a few more cards to review here, or to go through. We have Cup of Water. This is an action with an amber that says stun each cyborg creature and each robot creature. And this looks like it is not in Winds of Exchange. It's only in Dark Tidings. But this actually could be good against Mars, but I guess they decided not to include it. That's a rare. Then we have Deep Priest Glebe, who's a 5-power Aquan that says after you play an enemy creature, exhaust an enemy creature. That's a really nice effect, and it does trigger on itself. We was playing with a friend, and we actually called a judge over to rule because we weren't sure. But yeah, it does actually exhaust the creature from itself being played, because of the way that timing works. Then we have Brain Drain. This is an action with an amber that says play a look at your opponent's hand, choose a card from it, and put it on top of their deck. That also seems really good with the Dark Discovery setup, because you have even a little more control potentially on a turn over in this case, what goes on top of their deck. Then we have Guilt Spine Netcaster. It's a 2-power Aquan that enhances 2 capture icons, and that's the ones that showed up on those Shadows upgrades. And it says after Reap, exhaust a creature. Then we have Plunder. This is a new card in Winds of Exchange. It's an action with an amber that says play, reveal a random unrevealed card from your opponent's hand. Then you may either repeat this effect, or your opponent discards the last revealed card. So this is a little difficult to understand right off the bat, but if you think about it, it's not too bad. If I have a hand with 6 cards, you randomly pick one, and you look at it, you decide, no, I don't want to discard that one. So that one stays and stays revealed, and now you're going to randomly pick one of these other cards. And now you're going to say, do I want to discard it or not? If you do discard it, we stop. You never see those other 4 cards. But if you don't discard it, now we're going to get one more. And if you don't discard that, we'll get one more until you finally end up, with only 1 card. So if you want, you can use it to have your opponent effectively reveal their whole hand and then discard their last card. But really, what the point is you get to keep revealing cards, and when you find one that you think, no, that's probably the best one to discard, you go ahead and do it. That's quite strong. If your opponent has like 1 or 2 cards that you are really worried about, you probably wait until you see one of those, and if you don't, then you just have them discard the 6th card. But under normal circumstances, if you see something good, you go ahead and stop there and discard it. Importantly, you can't like go back and discard something you saw earlier. You can only discard the most recently revealed one. Okay, last card. Sybil Waymare. This is one I thought was pretty interesting. It's a 5-power Aquan. At the start of your opponent's turn, that player discards the top card of their deck and exhausts each creature in that card's house. That can be super strong. If you get lucky, it can completely ruin their turn. I think I had 2 or 3 turns where opponents discarded, exhausted stuff, and then said, oh, I guess I'm changing my house choice then. And it was casual, so I let them. But what was happening is people would call a house, and then I'd be like, oh wait, you have to discard a card, because it's easy to forget that. Then they'd discard, it would be the house they called, and then they'd say, oh wait, no, I'll do something else. So anyway, it seems like a fun control card. It seems like there are a lot of fun control cards in Unfathomable this set, probably even more than the last time around. So, all right, that was the Señor of Oustenhenge. Let's see, did I cover? I talked about randomness of spiky. I talked about the deck. I think I covered everything I wanted. This was super fun. I really like the whole Unchained thing is so cool, and I'm very thankful that we get to do it. All right, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it, and you get out there and forge some keys.